Okay, it's being recorded now.
All right. Good evening. I would like to call the Gresham Charter Review Committee meeting of September 26, 2022 to order. The current time is 6:01 p.m. Pacific. Margarito will call roll.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Joseph Andaya,
Present.
John Artner. Okay. Jacob Cleverly. Shelley Dennison.
Here.
Christopher Dressel.
Here.
Tim Fear.
Present.
Amanda Gaken.
Here.
Jack Hollis.
Here.
Kathy Keithley. Dana Stroud.
Hey, yeah.
Yes, there is a quorum. There is 7 people present.
Thank you very much, Oh, sorry, go ahead.
7, yes, 7.
Thank you very much, Margarita. As we have a quorum of members present, we shall continue. This is a meeting of the Charter Review Committee. Please note that Charter Review Committee members are private citizens appointed by the City Council to review the Gresham Charter of 1978 and to provide the Council our recommended amendments to the Charter in the form of a final report. We are not paid, but serve entirely as volunteers. Pursuant to Section 45B of the Charter, the Gresham City Council shall appoint a Charter Review Committee to review the current language of the city's charter every 8 years. If the Charter Review Committee recommends that the charter be amended, it will forward the proposed amendments to the Council for review. Council may decide to place one or more of the CRC's recommended changes to the ballot. This evening, we have 8 agenda items: written public testimony, oral public testimony, an update from the city attorney, approved minutes from the previous meeting, a report from the subcommittee, discussion on priority items on collaboration board, agenda items for future meeting, future schedule, and other items. Moving into our first agenda item, public testimony. This is a meeting of the Charter Review Committee, and we will begin by inviting members of the public to provide either written or oral testimony. Members of the public had until 12 p.m. on Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 to submit their written testimony. Members of the public had the option to register to provide oral testimony as well. Advanced registration for providing oral testimony is not required. Individuals providing oral testimony will have 3 minutes to speak, and persons representing a group or organization will have 5 minutes to speak. Margarita, did any members of the public submit written testimony or register to provide oral testimony at tonight's meeting? You got it.
Yes, thank you. Written testimony. So included in the agenda packet is written testimony received from Representative Zach Hudson. This was included in the July 11, 2022 CRC meeting agenda packet as well. But since that meeting was canceled due to a lack of quorum, it is also included in this meeting's agenda packet. Oral testimony, there have not been any requests from the members of the public to register to provide oral testimony as of today. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Margarita. Are there any attendees who did not register in advance to provide oral testimony, but wish to do so at tonight's meeting? I'm looking at a timer. I'll give it 30 seconds. $15 more seconds. I see also we have Vice Chair Arner here. Good to see you. All right, seeing as no attendees wish to provide oral public testimony, we will move into our next agenda item. Update from City Attorney. City Attorney, take it away.
Thank you, Chair Andaya, members of the Charter Review Committee. Kevin McConnell, City Attorney. I just wanted to give just a brief update on the goings on with the City Attorney's Office and staffing and some of the issues that happened, decisions made by the Gresham City Council at the last meeting. So as you know, our paralegal, Dara Wright, could no longer continue in her capacity working with the Charter Review Committee or subcommittee. And that created an issue as far as pulling these meetings off successfully and doing what needs to be done and making sure that all of you can do the jobs you need to do. And so to that end, I work with the manager and human resources, and we actually hired a policy analyst that will serve as the Charter Review Committee and Subcommittee's project manager. That was based on some research about how other cities, particularly the city of Portland, that's what they have for assistance with their Charter Review Committee, is a person that acts as a project manager and leads the Charter Review Committee and the subcommittee to make sure that they can do the task appointed to them and get a final report ultimately to the city council. And to that end, we've hired Jane Leo. That was a competitive recruitment process. And Ms. Leo will be starting, I would imagine, if not this week. Her first day was today. She's onboarding, learning, drinking through a fire hose right now. But I anticipate that she will be meeting with the subcommittee at its next meeting, not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, and get her on board. She has substantial experience in many levels of government. I did send an email just with a quick update about what her qualifications were. I'm excited to have her on board. This is a limited term employee position. She will work full time with the Charter Review Committee and Subcommittee. That is her sole job with the city of Gresham in the city attorney's office. So that's what is needed, I believe, for this body, and not to have, while myself and Margarita and Dara, we did the best job we could. It really requires someone who puts in their entire effort and doesn't already have a full-time job and dedicate themselves to these bodies. So we will look forward to having Jane on board here in about a week and a half, and we will go from there. And moving on to staffing or membership in the Charter Review Committee, as you know, we were down to 11 after the last council business meeting. The council removed former member Deborah Stewart. She missed 4 meetings in a row. And the city council, after a review at the business meeting, decided to remove her from the Charter Review Committee. So you are down to 10 members. That's not a bad number. I hope it stays at 10. That's good for many reasons, but we do need people who participate. And unfortunately, this individual did not make one meeting after being appointed. So that was becoming a problem. And with that, I will leave you with something that probably needs to be talked about. It doesn't have to be talked about tonight, but something to keep in mind for this body before the end of the year. The city council is definitely interested, understands your predicament that you've not met for 2 months for various reasons. One, because no commissioner committee met during the council break. That was about 3 weeks. But also we had to resolve the staffing issue before we could go forward, and that's been resolved. The council understands that and is by all appearances has no issue with amending the resolution to have you come back with a final report after January 2023. So what the council's directive to me was to work with the Charter Review Committee to see how much time the Charter Review Committee thinks it's going to need to complete its mission. Now, I think that a large part of that is working on that mural board and trying to knock out your priorities and seeing how much time it's going to take to go through what you ultimately decide you want to work on. But we have time to do this. We don't need a decision tonight. We don't need a decision in a month. But by end of November, I'm going to be pushing to try to get a time that you would like, so I can forward that to the city council. What will happen after that? The city council will review, and they will review. And if they decide to give you more time, we will amend Resolution 3478 that will reflect the time given, and we will move on from there. So, Chair, that is my quick update, and I'll take any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much, City Attorney, and continued support from City staff and Darrow. We appreciate everything that you have done to help this run smoothly. I personally do not have any questions. Do any other members have questions? All right. Thank you very much, City Attorney. Oh, Member Fear.
Sorry. I'm inept at hitting my unmute button. Sorry, and the face. Kevin, do our terms expire at the end of October for this committee?
Member Fear, don't worry about that. You may have seen
Okay.
that on the Charter Review Committee
I have.
website.
Okay.
You will continue until the city council dissolves the body, and that will be
Okay.
after the final report is issued. So you have time.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Fear. That actually reminds me, my question was, I think the maximum for this committee is 14, correct? Because it's 2 per city council member and mayor.
Chair Andaya, that's correct. How this council set up the Charter Review Committee, they wanted to increase the membership. So it was 14 was the original goal. We have, as you know, people have resigned from the Charter Review Committee for various reasons. Others have been removed. But right now we're at 10, and I hope it stays at that. Every time we lose somebody, I have to, it's my duty to report that to the city council. And yeah.
Thank you very much. So moving on to, Member Dennison.
Sorry. Kevin, that 14 number, the original 14, was the assumption of attrition baked into that number? Or does council want to replace those members who have left? Are we going to stick with the 10 that we have, or are we going to try to add more folks?
Member Dennison, that's a great question. So I think that's really because the Charter Review Committee, it's just a different advisory body. It's different from all the other ones that we have. As you know, it only meets every 8 years. Not a lot of institutional knowledge going forward. So after 8 years, the people that worked on the Charter Review Committee, council members, a lot of them aren't there. A lot of the staff doesn't remember or have long gone, and you have new people in. What I gather from the city council is they are not replacing members at this time. That could change. I think the feeling is that if you replace them at this late date, they would be so far behind, they would have trouble. However, I can't guarantee you that they won't move to relook at this issue and appoint replacements as they deem necessary. Again, as you know, that is squarely within their purview. And
Thank you very much, City Attorney. Follow-up question: if there is not a current plan to replace members, is there a possibility to change what constitutes a quorum? Like if right now we're at 10 out of 14, but if we're not replacing them, we could technically, like in theory, it could be 10 out of 10. I guess so. Then a quorum would be 6, which I guess is still the same. Actually, never mind.
no, and Chair, you got it. It's so when they terminated membership and they don't replace them, now we're down to 10 members. And so a quorum is 6. If we keep going down, let's say we went down to 7 members, that 7 was the group, then it would be 4. And hopefully that won't be the case.
Got it. Thank you very much. So any other questions on this topic? Okay, moving on to our next agenda item. Approved minutes from previous meeting. The City Attorney's Office staff prepared minutes of the June 13th, 2022 meeting. Does any member have a question or concern regarding the minutes as presented? The minutes can be viewed in the agenda packet. All right, seeing none. If there are no issues with the minutes, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes. Oh, I second.
All right. Motion has been put forth and seconded to approve the minutes. And I think it's unanimous consent. Any objections? All right. Seeing none, the minutes of the previous meeting are approved. Yeah, there it is, my notes. Without objection and unanimous consent, I forgot. So moving on to the next agenda item. Report from Subcommittee / discussion on elections / voting system recommendation timeline. On March 9th, 2022, we appointed the subcommittee to perform the following tasks and report back as directed. First, solicit community feedback regarding the city's election system, as well as general community feedback regarding other matters related to the city charter. Second, work with the city's communications team to explore potential community outreach efforts to increase community involvement in the charter review process, as well as seek assistance in obtaining a facilitator to properly engage community members. And third, research the elections systems issue and report back to the greater CRC body with a recommendation. Member Hollis, could you please give us an update on the subcommittee's activities since our last meeting?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So since our last meeting, well, not a lot of us has really been up to much, in all honesty, because of the meeting holds that we've been on. We didn't get a chance to go over our the various events that we've all attended individually since our last meeting. And that's just because our meeting kind of took a turn talking about districting. And so we're hoping to get that into our next meeting, which now has been pushed back one. So in a couple of weeks, we'll get back on track talking about our most recent community outreach that we all did on the break. What we do have is our facilitator, Shawnee, has completed the outreach that we had her doing, which was kind of coinciding with a lot of the in-person events we were doing, getting a bunch of people together to give us community feedback on both the election system and just what needs to be changed in general. We got great responses, I think higher than we were looking for. If I remember correctly, the numbers are around over 300. Is that about right, Dana? I always turn to you, Dana, for the numbers. Thank you. I feel like you're the one who writes them down. Mr. McConnell?
Yeah, Chair Hollis, I believe if I heard her correctly, it was about 350 to 400.
All right, great. Yeah. So much larger numbers than we expected we would get. So part of what that means is she's still working on actually turning those numbers into a cohesive report for us. We're expecting to get that report, I believe, next month. And so both we'll get that report to start doing our interpretation and our work on it, and that report will be coming back to the greater committee as well, so everyone can see it and understand kind of what our city is looking for in general. I think that's kind of it. Anyone have any questions on what I've said so far?
I'm just really quickly familiarizing myself with the September 21st meeting. I felt like I saw there was a discussion around districts in the emphasis from the meeting notes. Is that correct?
Yeah, we got on a long tangent about districts is really what we did at that meeting. Did you have any questions?
Tell us more about that, I guess.
Okay, so
briefly.
Briefly, yeah. So we were talking about districts and kind of how they affect or help various aspects of a voting system. So I had some questions around it, and part of this is because I think we've heard different things from different experts, and so one of the things we came away from was we needed some clarification around some numbers. The important number for me was that districting can be really important if we have geographically separated groups. If we don't have geographically separated groups and we're looking towards equity, it's not actually that helpful. And districting, of course, can bring in its own problems when you talk about gerrymandering, or the possibilities that it can bring. Any complex system will bring its own problems. So one of the big questions we came out of that discussion was how geographically diverse are our population groups in Gresham? And we have questions out to that. We have, does anyone remember the name of Larry? I can't remember his last name. Morgan, thank you. Larry Morgan, who works with the city, has a pending question from us to help clarify that for us. And I believe we also have questions out to the professors along the same lines. So our hope is we'll get some clarification on that. And that is really to help us narrow down what our recommendations are going to look like. As far as I understand, we're still on. As far as I understand, we're still on the same pages that we've talked about before, which is that change has to happen. It's just a matter of what is going to be the best way to go.
Yep, that's why we're all here.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Member Hollis, brain fart there, as well as members of the subcommittee for your continued work. Any other discussions regarding the report from the subcommittee? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to our big item for the evening, which is the discussion on priority items on the collaboration board. At our June 13th, 2022 meeting, there was discussion around reviewing these items and identifying the committee's top priorities. The current version of the priority board was included in our agenda packet. So if everyone could please refer to their agenda packets. Hang on, let's see if I can figure out what page it's on. What page is this? 27, page 27 and 28. I know there was a way to view it like live or like on one page, or Vice Chair Arner probably printed it. So let the discussion begin. I'll start. I sent in the agenda packet, as well as I sent out basically a list of things that I recognized were mine on there that were low priority or could be removed, which I think was like a 30% reduction if we decide to remove all of those. Now I need to find it in the agenda packet. But if anyone has any objections to removing them, now's the time. Otherwise, we can already cut out 13 items, in my opinion. But I'm just one member of this committee. If you need to see that list, it's on page, oh geez, what page is it? It's 34, the very last page. And it's bulleted. For people that I'll just read them out loud very briefly. Chapter 3, section 39A, citizen involvement regarding specific language. That's low priority for me. Chapter 3, section 11, qualification for council.
Chair?
Yes.
Do you want us to, I have issues with 2 of the items listed, and
Okay.
I would like to be able to address those and then follow whatever the members want to do. But
Sure.
the first one that I had a concern about is the one you just started with. It was listed on the mirror board as a high priority.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of concern that the language in the existing charter is wholly inadequate. It's almost non-existent. So I would like to, as they say in City Council, we can kind of go down their line of consent agenda, and any member that wants to withdraw 1 or 2, they can withdraw them and then come back and discuss that. That might be a way to move forward quickly.
Okay.
So I have a concern on the first one and the one that towards the bottom, requires council consent before manager can disband or reorganize departments.
Okay.
And I would like to speak to that one when the time is appropriate.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Ardner. So if everyone has the packet in front of them, I'll save us all the time and I won't read the whole thing. 2 of those 13 have been pinned in terms of further discussion. If anyone else wants to discuss any of the other ones, by all means. Otherwise, I'm fine. As the person that put them on the mirror board, I'm fine removing them from the mirror board to kind of trim the discussion down.
I kind of feel like the one about city council disbanding is kind of tied to city council able to dismiss the manager. So I think I'd like to talk about both those at the same time if we're talking about one.
Okay. Yep, chapter 5, section 20. Yep. Anyone feel strongly about any others? All right. We can revisit this, but just like temporarily in my personal head, just those 3 are kind of being kept. And then now I'll just open the floor to the rest of the mirror board discussion. Does anyone see does one jump out at them that they think either should be elevated or it should be lowered or removed from the mirror board so we can kind of focus in on a couple of issues?
It would be really helpful if we could pull up the electronic version of this as all together within our Zoom, and then remove the ones that we're agreeing should be removed, so it will clean it up quite a lot. At this point, there's what, 9 removed? or we're thinking of removing
I think
9 of them?
10 removed.
Yeah. Do we still have a link to this so that we could all look at it up in the cloud simultaneously right now?
I would have to refer to city staff regarding that.
Since
Let's see.
Zara was in charge of this, I'm not sure where to find a link. I can try to look it up right now and see if I can find it.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't see a link to it in my email, but I feel like we either got one or it wasn't in an agenda packet as like, here is the link to it, but I can't remember. Let's see.
Looks like Christopher Dressel, member Dressel.
Yep,
has
just
found-
put it in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, I should probably open that. Let's see, it's this button. Here we go. Thank you very much. I guess, city staff, does it matter if like I share my screen and manipulate it, or is like, I don't know if there's like a yes or like that's a no. I actually don't even know if I'm able to manipulate it.
Sure, I don't think there's an issue with
Yeah,
you.
it says view only. Yeah.
If you have that capability, I don't know if Margarita can get you that capability or she just needs to do it herself.
I can give you access to share. Just give me 1 second.
I'm able to share, but in terms of like moving things on the Miro board, my access is view only.
Let me see what I have.
Oh, sign up. Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, mine says view only as well. So it says to ask for editor rights to make changes, please log in or sign up. So I don't have an account that I'm aware.
Oh, enter a 6-digit code. Oh, okay.
Yes, I don't have access. I don't have an account. So I think Vera is the owner of the account.
Well, we can just share and I'll take a screenshot. I could just put red X's on it. You know, we can scuff it together.
Sure,
Okay.
I apologize for that. That's one thing we're trying to make this work. All the new employees, and this is one thing we need to correct is getting Dara off the Miro board and get that to Margarita. So I apologize for that.
No worries. Okay, I've got 3 screens, so this works out. Share screen. This screen. Okay, well, let's see. Hang on, work with me here. Let's see. Rectangular snip. Ta-da! We can X things out now. Oh, here, this needs to move. Oh, annotate. There we go. Okay, so I don't know actually if I can annotate by presenting. Get rid of this. Stop annotating. We're working on it. Here, okay, wait, close that. Okay, we're there. Annotate. Okay, here we go. So things we're getting rid of. Citizen involvement. 339, section 3, 30, S9A. Where are you? Chapter 3, S9A. Oh, this now I need all help finding all these things. Here it is. Oh, is there a bigger color? Not that one. We're working together. Okay, 11B. Should city job disqualify from council? 11B. Get rid of that one. This is high tech, guys. I'm patent pending. Elected officials of other
You're
districts.
doing great, Chair Andaya. Thank you.
11C. Here we go. Get rid of that one. Hold more than one elective office. Okay, get rid of that one. Quorum process seems vague for 13. Get rid of that one. City manager. Oh, what? Okay, so 520B we're keeping. City manager term limit. Anyone have any reservations about removing city manager term limit? 520B. Here it is. Okay. My Zoom is like much smaller, so if you raise your hand, I might not see it. City, okay, specify meaning of effectiveness 20C4.
Chair Andaya, do you want me to keep an eye on that and then just interrupt you if someone raises their hand?
Go for it. Sounds perfect. Let's see. Require counsel. Okay, so that one someone liked. Specify a determination of guilt. Chapter 520. Okay, that's this one. Tie vote change. Yeah, I mean, it was close. It was 13 in the mayoral, but like, do we like, yeah, I would say I would keep that one personally as like a low one if like, because I think it's like you draw from a box, I think is the current system for breaking ties. It's something archaic. So I'll leave that one on. 1146. 11. Here we go. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, perfect. 9 removed. All right, the floor is everyone else's. Vice Chair Ardner.
I have a question regarding procedure now. You made an initial proposal to the group, and we withheld a couple of items for further discussion. And now you've X'd them out. But should we have a vote to say that we want to, that the ones you marked out are now gone, or something to formalize that?
I know if it has to be that official. City Attorney, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, Chair Andaya, Vice Chair Ardner, that's certainly we could do that. I think that Chair Andaya also could just via unanimous consent seek that. And if there were no objections to the crossing out of these certain items, that would be appropriate as well. And I would note that Member Keith Lee is now joining the meeting.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. So yeah, that sounds fine, Vice Chair Ardner. I'll just so we're on the same page. The ones, the 3 that were pointed out in terms of keeping, which was be able to dismiss city manager, disband organizations, and then the one I elected to stay in terms of the tie vote process. Those 3 I did not X out. It's just the other ones. So any objection to removing these other 9?
Chair, could you
Yes.
review them? Could you review them? Because the way you scratched them out so quickly,
Sorry, fair enough.
I probably missed a couple.
So looking at the list on page 34 of our agenda packet, bullet number 1, citizen involvement. It says more specific language on community involvement. That was scratched out. Bullet number 3, should a city job disqualify someone from council? X'd out. Bullet 4, should elected officials of other districts be disqualified for council? Bullet 5, should people be able to hold more than one elected office? Bullet 6, quorum process seems vague. Okay, 7. Bullet 8, city manager term limits. Bullet 9, specify meaning of effectiveness. Bullet 11, specify what quote, a determination of guilt is established means, end quote. And then 13, 10% of registered voters to recall elected officials too low, question mark. Yeah, happy. Are we happy with removing those without objection?
I have no issue with it.
I have a question.
Yes, Vice Chair Ardner.
At the top row, the pink one in the center, more specific language on community involvement. I believe is that not the one I was asking to hold?
Was it? I possibly misunderstood you. Let me, if I
Or is there
erase this.
another one?
I thought you were asking about the second one. Update to not disqualify victims of systemic racism in the justice system.
No, no, not that one.
Okay, my mistake. So let's fix that. Wait, where's the pencil? Come back. We'll just do the fashion. All right, so you wanted to keep the first bullet and not the second bullet. So chapter 3:11 qualification cancel. This one here, which I did put in bold, is moot as convicted felons can vote in Oregon elections. So thank you very much for that clarification, Vice Chair. All right. Any objection to removing these several items? I'm not going to count them. I can't see everybody, but I'm assuming there is none. So we'll just consider these removed from the Miro board. And those were the ones that I had in terms of priority to remove, quote unquote. So the floor is open. I've kind of hogged a bit of this discussion. So by all means, someone else take it away.
Just a question for anybody, but I'm interested in hearing from Vice Chair Ardner. The Chapter 3, Section 9A on citizen involvement. I'm curious what kind of specificity you think that ought to include, or what kind of language, you know, it should have. Yeah, I'm curious about that.
Thank you. My response would be that in the time period 2008 to 2010, 3 city councilors spent 2 years modifying the city citizen advisory committees. Sometime in 2019, a councilor proposed that it be drastically revised, and now you have members of committees reporting to other committees who then report to council. And I feel, as a matter of honoring citizen involvement, that a citizen who is going to participate should be able to know that that committee in some fashion would be able to communicate directly to council and not through the planning commission as it currently is. For instance, if you're in urban forestry and you have a planning development, maybe the planning people want to go ahead with the development and the forestry people don't want to lose the trees. Well, the forestry people have to go through the planning committee now, and I think it's not very helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it sounds like kind of what you're saying is maybe some more kind of specific procedural language of how kind of that process can be streamlined. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes, just first of all, there's only 3 sentences in that paragraph, if I'm remembering it correctly. And there's only one really that talks about citizen involvement. And all I'm trying to say is that a citizen who spends their time should be able to advise the council, not run through other levels of bureaucracy, so to speak.
Would what you're looking for in the wording be to something along the lines of like a citizen advisory committee would be reporting directly to the decision maker, whoever that happens to be? Or are you saying like that it needs to be city council every time?
I think city council, and the reason I say that is people can make the point that we have maybe too many, and that would take up all of council's time. But it's within their prerogative to have these committees, and maybe they need to focus their efforts on exactly what advice they want and what advice they don't want. I think that kind of a provision cuts two ways. It might force them to define what areas they really want help from.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Arner. Member Gaken.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding the request. It sounds like it's more of a request to add a process for short chain of command between council members and citizens. Because currently there's nothing in the entire charter at all in regards to that process in that section. All that section says is the mayor is going to make an annual report on citizen involvement. So are you asking to add a process? Is that the request? Because I can get behind that. That's why I'm asking.
I believe would be the essence of what I was asking for.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure that I'm hearing it and I'm processing it correctly. Because I think it's a very valid proposal. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Member Gaken and Member Vice Chair Ardner. So regarding the discussion around the citizen involvement, which is, I've got a spotlight button. Citizen involvement, where'd you go? This one here. Oh, dang it. Well, it's this one. I think priority is like another thing. Is priority like more to the right or to the left? I think it's to the left, yeah, because at large is over here. So this one we want to be able to address, maybe not like this evening, but just like something we want to address as a committee. And then are we happy with its priority? Or if anyone has a better idea on how to kind of go through these, I'm all ears, but we're doing good on time. So
my first thought is, I wonder do we have any disagreement on this? If we don't have disagreement, we might have just solved it.
in terms of like addressing it as a committee?
Yeah, like
or just
what
its
we want
position
to
on the
do.
board? Okay.
If everyone says like that sounds great, what Vice Chair Ardner is saying, then all it's a matter of doing is implementing that at some point, which would take it off this board because we already know we have a plan to finish it off. I'm wondering from our committee, is there anyone who has opposition?
Could you just remind me very specifically what it was, because I was fiddling with it. I apologize.
Vice Chair Ardner can probably, I think, speak to it better, what he was hoping to get out of this.
My proposal was relatively simple, to add one sentence or two sentences, whatever it takes to adequately describe it, along the lines of that citizen advisory committees have the right and obligation to prepare a report and speak directly to City Council on the tasks that they were given.
Okay, I see. Okay, thank you very much for that recap. I don't know if like, in terms of like, here's the verbiage we want to add to the charter. Like, I know that's like one step further. Like, it has to like go through like a whole process, like being massaged. But if I understood correctly, and City Attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, we're at the point where like we could decide that that is something we want to like use a motion to move forward, correct?
Chair, I'm a little confused about what is being.
So, and other members help me out if I didn't understand. So Vice Chair Arner is not necessarily putting forward a motion yet, but is recommending that we add 2 sentences to Chapter 5, Section 9A. Discussion around that occurred, and then Member Hollis brought up a good point that if we're all on the same page of how we want to change it, then we could, in theory, solve it this evening and then move like that. This would basically be like, we did this thing, and then it goes through the process of like the actual verbiage is being solved. Did I get that correct? Any members want to correct me there?
I'm wondering if a a recap for this is that we have kind of the plain language of what we'd like to get done. And if we agree on that as a committee, if we could say like, okay, that one's kind of done. We know the general theme of what we want to get done, and we're gonna send that off to city attorney's office to actually make that happen, because we know we're not writing into the the document here.
Chair, I don't doubt your ability to propose such an amendment. I'm looking back at section 9A, and it was adopted by the voters in 1999. So I'm sure we could probably find legislative history on why this was deemed to be necessary to put into the charter and require the mayor to make an annual report. I'm not sure if the request needs to go in section 9A. If I understand the request, it's really going to require substantial amendments to our code as far as how the city council, it's the city council's power right now to appoint members to advisory bodies. They have a process set up for that. As some of you are very well aware, the new manager has been working to implement long-standing code provisions regarding a coordinating committee for the planning commission. And that is in the works. So I think, is that the issue, that there is a coordinating committee that citizen advisory subcommittees have to go through to voice their issues before going to the city council, working with the coordinating committee?
Vice Chair Arner, I'll let you take this one.
That was the issue I was trying to bring up. At this point, I was only trying to hold the position on our priorities list, not necessarily make a final decision, because we have others that might bump it, frankly. But it's one that I wanted to hold on our list at this moment.
Oh, okay, Chair, I think.
Yep,
if
that answers that. Yeah, thank you very much, Vice Chair Arner, and apologies for the confusion, City Attorney.
Yeah, I think if that's the goal, we're just trying to identify the priorities you'd like to move forward on, and we're not in no position right now to actually adopt formal language. We don't even know where this is in your priority list.
I'm pointing the finger at Member Hollis for that one. Okay, he's down there. Member Gakin.
I was just going to say, since I think we as a group are saying, yes, this deserves further discussion, can we just put little heart around the ones we're going to move forward with, and then keep on keeping on? There we go.
I'll see what I could do. Yep, wait, I got it. Okay, thank you very much. Member Keithley, I saw you had your hand raised.
I was just going to make that suggestion that we just put it on a holding pattern, because it's important now, and it feels like we have a good handle on what we might want, but it might not stay in the queue when we get all the other things in the top. And I apologize, I was sitting right here reviewing the minutes and forgot that it started at 6. And so I would, since I have the floor just for a moment, because in the minutes we all said we would bring back our 2 top ones. And it looks like you guys are going from the bottom, like trying to get rid of things that we all agree with. But I remember in the minutes, Vice Chair Ardner talked about having, no more than 10 or 15, and our committee's down to 10. So if we each pick 2, that would get us to 20. And, and maybe there are some that are common among members. So I just throw that out there, but I wasn't part of the discussion, so.
No worries, Member Keithley. Good to have you back. Member Stroud.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm not going to feel very comfortable naming, my top 2 or changing too much of the current list until we get the report back from the facilitator who helped us with community engagement. I feel like having that understanding of members of the community that aren't represented well in our group is really critical to the direction that we end up taking.
Thank you very much, Member Stroud. Vice Chair Arner, did you have an additional comment?
No, thanks.
Oh, something's in the chat. How do I get to that? Okay, that's a separate thing. Okay. All right, floor is for the committee to discuss the Miro board. There's a bunch on here. And if you guys don't say things, I'll start talking and I won't stop. So.
Okay, well, I will add one other comment. Based on our preliminary findings from Shawnee Harris Bagwell, some of the top things that were raised by the 350 people that they were able to engage with, district representation, which we have on here, having single versus multiple representatives per district, having some sort of ranked choice or multi-choice voting system was a common theme. Accessibility and safety concerns being equitable across all of the city of Gresham was a major concern. And then having a way to provide complaints via the Gresham website was something that came up. So I'd be curious to think about each of those items and where they may or may not be represented in the current Miro board.
Thank you very much, Member Stroud. Member Keithley.
Just as a clarification on the accessibility and safety and complaints via website, were those specifically as it related to the voting process or just in general?
So accessibility and safety concerns was more of a generalized issue that many people were faced with. And we had the viewpoint that if there's a common theme in what people are struggling with within the city, then maybe the charter is the right place to think about coming to some solutions for people.
And the same thing with the complaints via the website?
Yeah. For folks that don't feel like they can talk to their representative specifically, or they're out of touch, or there's an issue with communication between the representative and the citizens, then it'd be nice for citizens to have another way to also relay their information to government.
Thank you very much, Member Stroud and Member Keithley. Anyone else want to jump in around Miro board or regarding Member Stroud's comments?
I'll just go. Sorry, I didn't raise my hand because I missed at the beginning, and I do apologize. Dana, was there a time frame for when the report would be back?
Oh, yeah, we're hoping to get more information in about a month. Is that right, subcommittee? Yeah, so written information in about a month. We just got a very high level summary, and I happened to jot down the top 5 things that they mentioned. But more information is definitely coming soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that clarification, Member Stroud. All right, pausing so I don't talk. I mean, we've been going at it for about an hour. I could talk the whole hour, but I'm not going to. So, Member Dressel.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Oh, were you talking to us or someone else, Member Dressel?
My apologies. I had somebody come in the room here.
No worries. So, looking at this list. Oh, actually, I know what. Member Dennison, you were discussing earlier about how charter review committee members are like selected, or like the size of the committee is determined, and the city attorney kind of gave us a little bit about that process and how 14 was just like an arbitrary decision number, and the people involved in the process 8 years ago kind of like their knowledge has been lost per se. One thing I will note is that in the Portland charter, they do have a whole section on how to select charter committee members. It's like very specific. There must be 20 of them. They must be demographically representative of Portland, and there's more things. So I can't remember if it's on here. It might be in this citizen advisory committee requirements, which is like a little broad, versus because the one I'm referring to is obviously the city charter committee. Nope, charter review committee. There we go. So to me, that's something I'd be interested in either. Oh, here it is. Change CRC, add number, nomination selection process. So never mind, it's already on there. Pretend I didn't say any of that. But hey, check out the Portland one. That's got a great reference, I think.
Actually, that subject is something that I would be interested in moving to a higher priority, specifically building equity into the lottery process or the selection process for future CRC members.
I would also like to move the priority up personally, just because how both how important this process is, but also like it feels under the radar all the time. So in terms of like having more people involved, more equity in the process, and just how our city is governed, I think, for lack of not lack of a better word, that's a pretty good word. I concur with Member Stroud's statements. Anyone have any objection to informally, not officially or anything, or I guess kind of officially moving the priority up for the this item here, Chapter 4, I believe, Section 45B.
So I'm just gonna add that we heard a presentation at some point, I can't remember the exact day, when people were talking about equity of forming groups like this. And one of the things they were talking about was the idea that other cities have used of a lottery system where it's not selected by any individual, but it's selected the same as kind of like jury selection, with the idea that you're not chosen based on your profession or your ability, but you're all chosen randomly, and then the city is responsible to bring everyone up to the level in which they can make these decisions. I wonder if that could be kind of an overarching theme that could encompass multiples of these that might be worth consideration.
So that, not to leapfrog off of what you're saying, but that would kind of oops, sorry, pardon the it turning down. It's just it happens at nighttime. Nope, that didn't work. Hang on. Disable presently. This one, there we go. That would also dovetail into citizen advisory committee requirements, I imagine. I think my concern around that is like even jury duty is both a civic duty and simultaneously, depending on your workplace environment, if you are in the workforce, can be a financial strain. So if you were like randomly selected to serve on a committee for 1 year that meets in the evenings, who knows how this would go in the future. Not that I'm against what you're saying, it's just there's a lot to unpack there, especially if you select people at random.
I concur with Member Hollis's idea. So that was the healthydemocracy.org presentation, and it's been worked out. Like the details have been worked out on how to pay people appropriately for their time, and also to give people an opt-out if they need it. But what it does do is it ensures representation of the different groups that make up the community.
Yeah, I remember seeing their presentation. So I guess we're on the same page. We're not doing anything with the priority currently, right? Member Hollis, that's not what you were getting to. You were just kind of discussing the item.
Yeah. So I guess it wasn't one or the other. I was just adding something to it. I agree. Make it a higher priority, and maybe there's a possibility of just clumping all these together into one solution, or at least one discussion, if they're all kind of in the same boat. Because that's another way for us to get a lower number here, is to start clumping them together.
Yeah. Any objection to Member Gakin?
Actually, my concern is we currently already have issues, A, identifying members, and B, retaining membership. My concern is if we propose to add additional layers, the voice of the citizens will ultimately disappear. I don't know about anybody else's process in this, but I actually applied. I filled out an application to be on this committee, and I actually intentionally kept it vague because I wanted the council member to appoint me to talk with me, to actually reach out to me without a preconceived bias. So that is something I am concerned. If we start adding layers to a process that individuals within the community have to seek in the first place, well, the numbers will dwindle and we will not get the same engagement. Our intentions may be well, but the engagement won't actually be supported. Does that make sense?
I think I'm speaking for myself. I think I understood what you were getting at, Member Gakin. One thing actually that your comments made me think of that I'll add is because we apply and then our counselors read and then pick, that is a barrier in and of itself, because if you are not picked, then you are not potential to be on the committee. So depending on like, if your ideas were this, that, or the other, and no counselor like depending on what was in your application, the counselor was like, no, I'm not going to touch that, then that's also a different form of a layer
Selection process.
as you were putting it. Yeah.
Yes, and I understand that. However, it does not prevent that citizen from being involved. It does not prevent that citizen from attending these meetings, providing input, to have discussions with the Charter Review Committee. So it kind of still, they can still stay involved and have their voices heard. May not be on the official, you know?
I mean, I think having a vote on like what gets passed to voters is pretty powerful in terms of citizen involvement regarding just like submitting public comment. But
I agree.
Yeah, I will shush now. And I don't know what order it was in, but let's go with Member Stroud.
Tim, I think you were before me.
Yeah, thanks, because I want to go back for a couple previous comments. And basically, Chair Adaya, I don't think your jury analogy holds water, because a part of it anyway, because the judge, he or she will dismiss people all the time if there's any kind of economic issue for people being in a committee. So I do want to back up what Jack Hollis and Dana said. What we heard before about this lottery system is very equitable to get people involved. And, you know, given time, the lottery process of work that the city would get the people that will want to be there to maybe address what was just said. But just to go back for a few things. So I'm done. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you very much, Member Fair. One, I'm happy to be wrong. If it's been figured out, hey, that's someone smarter than me. So more power to him. Go ahead, Member Stroud.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd like to think about it more, Amanda, I'd like to think about it more as people will be getting postcards and invitations to engage with government. So the people that normally wouldn't have even noticed the website or been encouraged to apply in the first place, because many people don't have time to think about getting involved with the government, or they can't afford to get involved in committees like this. And there's these barriers, right? Because life is busy and there's multiple jobs and kids everywhere, and you know, the things that happen to us. And so the process that has been outlined and several of us heard the presentation around is one where there's intentional outreach and then creating room and creating opportunities in a way that can support everyone, so that we hear from people that we wouldn't typically hear from. Anyways, I just wanted to touch on that, and then also ask if we can make a decision about moving this to a higher priority if there isn't opposition.
Thank you very much, Member Stroud. Member Gakin, do you want anything to add, or no?
No, I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Member Gakin. Member Hollis.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was gonna say most of what Dana said was kind of what I was thinking, which is this is a process that's been worked out, and I think it's a process we should be challenging if we decide to move forward with it. We shouldn't just accept that, whatever people said is going to work for us. We should make sure we actually do look into it. To help alleviate one of the things I think you were saying, Chair Andaya, it's not jury duty as in a requirement. It's an opportunity. But an intentional opportunity was my understanding, was kind of what was going on. And then the hope was that it would also provide support so that so it wasn't just people who had free time, but people who also had jobs. The city could provide support around the idea of requiring their employers to allow them to have the time off or whatever it happened to be. And it was just a way to get better support, to get different individuals the opportunity to show up. Now, that being said, anyone can still show up exactly as they do, show up and give testimony. That wouldn't change any of that, but this would just allow more opportunity for interaction. But yeah, I agree. I think we should move it. We should up the priority. And this just might be something that could lump a couple of them together in one discussion. If not this solution, maybe another solution.
Thank you very much, Member Hollis. And so I think you're right. I did misunderstand. When you said lottery selection, it's lottery selection to be sent an invitation, not a you have been summoned. So that's on me. My bad. Member or Vice Chair Ardner.
Thank you. I would like to simplify our processes maybe a little bit by encouraging us to go back to the original question, Chair, that you raised. And I did not hear any concern that there was a problem with moving the priority. And then we got into, well, how would we do it, and all the other issues related to that. I think we need, for tonight's purpose, to simply say, do we have consensus that this is a higher priority item? And if so, put a heart on it, move it, and move on to another one.
Yeah, any objections? Thank you very much, Vice Chair Ardner. Any objection to increasing the priority of this item, change Charter Review Committee nomination and selection process? I said any objection. Okay, I said the right word. Okay, seeing none, I think I got the power of arrows. Or do we think it's equal to or a little less than urban renewal amendments? Personally, I say equal to.
I would say equal to or greater than.
All right, we'll just line it up with this far corner here, and everyone definitely will know what I mean when we look at that later. Wait, I messed up a little. Yeah. That's as big as the arrow gets, I think. Oh, something in the chat. Okay, separate thing. Okay, yeah, separate questions. Okay. All right, Member Fear.
The parallel one we spoke about a little while ago, the redundancy one, on the bottom right, Citizen Advisory Committee requirements, should we arrow that to the section 5? Because there's some redundancy in those 2 points, I think.
Thank you very much, Member. You mean this one here? So that is a good question, because there's a lot of citizen advisory committees, and I, as a thought experiment, I haven't even thought about, like, what if all of them were like invited by lottery? I actually don't know. So what do people think about that? I guess that's not the question. The question is, do we want to lump them together? Just disregard what I said. Let's not overcomplicate it.
I saw that as, yeah, I was just seeing that as they come together. So we would want to talk about them at the same time. And if they go in different directions, fine, but they're the same basic topic, committees.
Yeah, I guess I'm not against that. Anyone against lumping this one, Citizen Advisory Committee requirements and Charter Review nomination process, lumping those together? I have H.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so let's see. How am I going to finagle this one? Let's just do. Yeah, there we go. Member Dennison.
I have a couple of brief comments about 2 other of these priorities.
Yes, I love it.
Moving on. Okay, great. So looking at Chapter 8, Section 34B, this digital notice. So I wonder if that is redundant with how the city of Gresham already posts city council agendas online. I wonder if that needs to be included in the charter, because it is already part of the procedure of city council to have, in fact, it's a state requirement that all of that stuff needs to be posted online at least 5 days in advance of the city council meeting, including any ordinances. And so I wonder if including that in a charter will just be redundant potentially. Our attorney might know more than I do on that, though.
Thank you very much, Member Dennison.
Yeah, and I had one more. Sorry.
Sorry, I just meant I was pausing to see if city attorney want to chime in, but if not, that's totally fine.
I'll just go and add my second one, and then right next to that, Chapter 8, Section 35, the emergency inaction of an ordinance. It's my understanding that that is kind of like just sort of a technicality of city council saying, like, there's no good reason to have a 30-day waiting period on this thing, so we're just going to enact an ordinance by emergency is just sort of like a kind of a legalese kind of thing. That's at least how I am used to encountering that in the city that I work for. It could be used differently in Gresham, and there is of course a possibility that there needs to be more that we need to beef up that section. But again, I would defer to our city attorney on that.
Thank you very much, Member Dennison. City Attorney.
Yeah, Chair, I'll may need a little bit more clarification on the ask. I'm looking at section 34B, mode of enactment. That really speaks to ordinances enacted in a single meeting. Generally, ordinance need 2 meetings for 2 readings before an ordinance is passed. That is also provided for in the charter and generally state law. So this is a procedure to enact an ordinance in 1 meeting, and that gives detail in 34B 1 through 4 about when that is legally permissible to do that. As far as the emergency clause, that's done. That is something that you find that all through government, the Oregon legislature and city councils. That provides that a city council may in an emergency provide a different effective day for an ordinance, or that it takes effect immediately upon its final passage. The emergency shall be clearly stated within the ordinance itself and the reason for the emergency. So yeah, there's reasons for that. One, that if you do have an ordinance that is adopted and it's effective upon passage, that takes away the citizens' ability, I believe, for a referendum. And that is, you see a lot of councils, you have to clearly state what the emergency is in the body of the ordinance when it is passed. But again, I may not be clear about what the ask is here and why we're changing it.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. I don't know who had these, if whoever had them wants to share their reasoning for including them, by all means. Vice Chair Arner, go ahead.
I believe, excuse me, I believe I put that one in. My concern was very simple. In terms of transparency to the citizens, all official actions of the council are done by ordinances or resolutions, and they are maintained in the city recorder's office, which is fine. Have no problem. My problem is very simply that if we're coming up on an election and I want to know how a counselor in position 1 or 2 or 3 voted on something, or I might want to ask a question at a debate on why they voted on something, I have no access to see any of those documents short of actually going down to City Hall and looking at them. And I think in this day and age of electronic access, we should have, as citizens, we should have access to all of the findings and actual decisions of our council.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Arner. I think I see some confusion here. So that says section 34B, which is what City Attorney was talking about an ordinance being enacted in a single meeting. But I believe that you are referring more to section 34 bullet point 1, or like 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, about like where the public has access to documents. Is that kind of more accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see, a copy is provided for each council, and copies provided for the public in the office of the manager, not later than 1 week before, posted in City Hall. Okay, so it's probably like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Basically, you want section 34, those sub 1, 2, 3, 4 to include like digital circulation as well, not exactly 34B, if I understood correctly.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Member Dennison, did that answer your question? We can add some clarity to the Miro board in the future.
What it potentially sounds like, which I agree with Councillor Ardner, that lessening the friction between government and the public is something that ought to be pursued. It almost sounds like potentially this could be a new section in Chapter 8, its own section, rather than being under Section 34B, that it could potentially be its own section about some kind of digital archive that the public can access as far as how council has voted on ordinances.
Thank you very much, Member Dennison. Member Keithley.
Did I hear the city attorney say that this section was enacted in 1999? And my question is updated to the 2022 that says things are available online too and not posted at City Hall? Is it just a vernacular issue?
City Attorney.
Well, again, I'm looking back at Section 34. Respectfully, I don't think what Vice Chair Ardner is looking for is accomplished by what was requested. Section 34 mode of enactment was adopted in 1984. It is an old ordinance. This is well before the web. What I hear Vice Chair Ardner looking for is more transparency in government and so there's better access for the community to see what their city government, their city council is doing. Making that change in 34B only applies to ordinances that the council attempts to enact within a single reading, not all ordinances. This is a foundational charter provision about mode of enactment that is in just about every charter that I've seen. It's just a strict legal requirement. If the ask is more, we need more transparency in government, and really we should be able to find this stuff online. I'm not saying that you can't put it in the charter. It's certainly something you can discuss, but it may not be appropriate to put it in Section 34 at this time.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. And I think with the emphasis on how this is regarding single ordinances, that we want majority of local government functions or documents be available online. And I think Member Dennison, in my opinion, hit it on the head in terms of like that could be like its own separate thing. I don't have the legalese to know like where it would go per se, but in terms of like as something to pursue and kind of morphing this Miro board item into that vision seems to me the path forward. I don't know the order. Member Gakin.
It could possibly fall under Chapter 10, the miscellaneous provisions. 42. There's quite a few. There's 40, 41, 42, 42B. Maybe it could be fall in there.
Yeah.
42C is kind of like the catch-all of our charter.
Mm-hmm.
So it could very well apply there. And then it's a very valid position that there should be complete transparency, especially during voting cycles.
Thank you very much, Member Gakin. City Attorney, you had something to add?
Yeah, Chair, and just to be helpful to the Charter Review Committee, that's certainly that's really something the Charter Review Committee doesn't have to worry about. That's something our project manager and the City Attorney's office can work with. You craft what you'd like to see, and we assist you in getting that language down and finding out where it should be in the charter. Of course, up to your review, but we can work on the specifics. You work on the foundational, the big issues.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. Member Hollis.
So I'm kind of wondering if we shot ourselves in the foot a little bit here in our organization, where we're looking at specific line items in a charter, and we're talking about general themes or ideas. Typically, if you're trying to make, if you're trying to build out a large process like this, you would start broad and then work to narrow. And we've kind of started extremely narrow and jumped a little back and forth between broad and narrow. I wonder if I wonder if we might want to start laying out some more broad ideas. Like one idea would be Vice Chair Ardner was saying you wanted better digital access or transparency. If we listed our priorities of things that we want to get done, and then we can kind of see what specific items attach to those, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Oh, City Attorney.
Yeah, Chair and Chair Hollis, I don't think you've shot yourself in the foot. I believe what this is on the system you have right now is an addition. That's how I see it. It's an addition to what we already have in the charter. I don't see anything in our charter that currently speaks to that. So.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. Anyone have any comments on what Member Hollis was saying?
I think that's a great idea, Jack.
So just to be clear, we want to talk broad ideas we want to add to the charter and not go through the mural board items. Is that what you were, did I understand you correctly?
Yeah, a little bit. So I'm thinking,
change, I guess. Add or change, pardon me.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe our discussions can be a little more high level than what we're looking at right now, because I don't think we have the clarity we need for specific line items. And it might be useful to us to prioritize our high level thoughts, or to get out of the way all the high level thoughts that we think are important.
Thank you very much, Member Hollis. Member Dennison.
Yeah, both. I agree that we might be getting into kind of some of the weeds. That's really more the wheelhouse of the attorney's office, that they're more equipped with the technical knowledge to know how to implement some of these things that we're talking about. And at the same time, I think it's important for us to do both, to do like the kind of in the weeds specific line item kind of audits, and also talk about kind of these big picture things that we want to make sure are operationalized through the charter, right? I think the process requires both conversations.
Thank you very much, Member Dennison. Member Keithley, did you just want to add? No. Okay. So one comment I'll say is, in terms of like broad things, I feel like that is somewhat addressed with this like addition section down here. These are a lot of the broad things not in the charter that up to this point we've discussed or otherwise communicated we'd like to see changed, added, removed, etc. from the charter. I don't know if this is kind of what you're referring to, or just like even on top of that another layer in terms of what's the actual verbiage on a current agenda item. Discussion on priority items on collaboration board. All right. Well, if we're going Member Dennison.
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm taking a lot of time. So just, I don't know, kick me out if I'm talking too much. But I think maybe something that could be helpful is if this isn't too much work. I mean, now we have a full-time attorney working on this, so maybe this is exactly what we need. But if this is not too much work for that person, if they could look at similarly sized cities to look at their charters and see how they have done things, like looking at these big picture things like a police oversight committee or equity framework and budgeting, or implementing a holiday for voting, right? These kind of big picture things. If I think it would be helpful for us to see how other cities have implemented these high level topics in their charters to make sure that we're on the right track with wanting to include them in ours.
Thank you very much, Member Dennison. City Attorney.
Yeah, Member Dennison, that's certainly something our project manager can do in the city attorney's office. I think what would be helpful is for the Charter Review Committee to really work as much as it can to take off the list things that you're clearly not interested, and the high level things, the additions that you want more information on. We could certainly do that.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. Actually, rewinding a bit, Member Dennison, you were talking about this, is emergency section sufficient? I don't think a resolution was reached regarding that. You were advocating for removing it, was that correct?
Not necessarily, more opening up a conversation of, is this something that we want to keep on the priority list, or is it something that can be dropped off? Yeah.
And if you had to choose one way or the other, I guess, would you want it to be kept or removed? Because that would kind of drive the discussion.
No, because the city that I work for, the city of Sandy, and it gets used in a pretty benign way, right? Like our recent Parks and Trails master plan, they adopted by emergency because they just wanted it to be enacted immediately. They didn't, think that the 30-day period needed to happen. But it could be the case that in Gresham, maybe it's been used in more controversial cases, more controversial ordinances, and we should keep that as a priority to kind of dig into it a little bit more. And so I don't feel like I can say either way.
I apologize for putting you on the spot. Member Keithley.
It's okay.
Did I just hear the city attorney say it's pretty boilerplate legal language that has to be there? And if that's the case, then it should be off. And actually that brings to my thought process, if there's any other language in here that we thought we might want to look at, but it's boilerplate required in law, should we still have it on there? I'd be interested in hearing that.
Yeah, thank you, Member Keithley. It's pretty standard language in city charters throughout Oregon. I don't know if it's actually required under state law to have an emergency enactment in the city charter. I can take a look at that. I know that it is in the state laws as well. There's very good reasons. I do understand the concern from Member Dennison. I have heard those concerns too, that sometimes there is a belief that city councils, they abuse the emergency clause, that they will put in emergency language that's pretty general. And what that does, that means the ordinance can go into effect immediately, not the general 30-day waiting period, and not have, and then it also shields from the power of the citizens to engage in the referendum process to challenge a law passed by the city council. That's one of the big features, one of the big things that an emergency clause will do. So once it goes into effect, that ability of the citizens to challenge a law adopted by the city council goes away. However, there are very good reasons for having an emergency clause. We have seen that during the times of the pandemic, where a ordinance needs to be quickly enacted for the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. And that has been done several times over the last 2 or 3 years.
Thank you very much for that clarity, City Attorney. So I'll put it up there. Is there anyone wanting to keep this item?
Could I
Vice
ask a
Chair?
question
Yep.
relative to that? The way I read it, I don't know who put it up there, but the way I read it is it talks about in the second sentence, the manager's emergency powers. Does the charter already provide the manager with certain emergency powers to act faster than council? For example, if we had that fire that came up the gorge, and if it had jumped over the Sandy River, it might have required instant, removal of people and things like this. So I'm not sure what the requirements are in state law and in the existing charter on that subject.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Ardner. I'm just going to Control F over here, emergency powers. I don't see emergency anywhere in the charter.
Chair Andaya.
Yeah,
thank you. That's an Article 7.45 of the Gresham Revised Code. That is the emergency code, and that speaks to a manager's authority to issue a declaration of emergency upon ratification by the council for certain specified reason, and that provides broad powers of the manager. But again, those are true emergencies that affect the immediate health, safety, and welfare of the community. And that's spelled out in Article 7.45.
And you said the Gresham Revised Code, so that would not be in the charter. That's in a separate document, if I just want to be really clear.
That's in our code.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. Code as in like the laws, not the charter.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. Sorry. Thank you. Member Gakin.
So then it would make it out of scope for this meeting, correct? Since it's not on the charter.
Well, just because it's not on the chart doesn't mean it couldn't necessarily be added, but if the author wants to, of this item, wanted to elaborate on what sort of, oh, it says manager's emergency powers. I thought it said mayor's emergency powers. Wanted to elaborate on this, I think this would be a good opportunity, assuming the author is present, because, you know, membership has changed. Otherwise, in my opinion, based on what city staff have told us about the emergency situations and revised code, et cetera, and regarding the city manager, as well as like the 30-day thing and like no referendum, I feel fine. My opinion would be like it's redundant. There's the word. But hey, I'm just one dude. So
I agree with you. I think it's redundant. If it's covered in the municipal code, I don't think we need to talk about it in the charter.
any objection to Xing out this item? All right, seeing none. Let's see, it's this button and then this button, then this button. Cool. So I like the city attorney's recommendation. You know, he doesn't direct us, but the idea that let's focus on removing items. You know, I'm for that. Anyone else have a, you know, have something else they want to do, by all means. But that seems like a good idea. Anything jump out, anyone or otherwise, that they want to discuss?
Well, I have a question about Member Hollis's concept earlier about kind of the broader brushstrokes. I would like to hear more about what that might look like process-wise, if you had some thoughts about that.
Member Hollis.
Sure. So process-wise, I agree with, I think, what Chair Andaya was saying, which is kind of in our additions section, we kind of do have broader strokes already, and that's good. I think we're already holding some broader strokes. Maybe process-wise, something that could be useful to us is when we come up with an idea of something that may not be a direct line item in our charter, that we put it in a broader term. So in this case, it could even be additions, to come back and reassess as we move forward, so that we're not losing these ideas, and that we can decide to hold important certain ideas, like in Vice Chair Ardner's suggestion, like better digital access and transparency, without having to tie it to an individual line item at this point. I agree with what Member Dennison said, though. I believe it was Member Dennison, that we do have to come back, and it's important for us to come back and tie it to a line item, or to discuss it in more minutia at a certain point. But I think we need to get a broader view of where we want to go, and make sure that's a scope we can handle, and then start breaking it down into the smaller minutia. Otherwise, we're going to just get lost in kind of the cycle that we've been doing so far.
Thank you very much, Member Hollis. Regarding the digital notice, you know, this language could be updated at a future date, but in terms of just like the general idea that government processes, documents, et cetera, are made available easily online. This can kind of, as a broader idea, I'm happy to put like an arrow down here towards like the higher priority. Is that sufficient with the present committee members, or any objections to that?
No objection.
All right. So while I'm doing that, Vice Chair Ardner.
If you're ready to move on, I have a one that we might be able to eliminate.
Go for it.
On the left-hand side, Chapter 6, require use of primaries to determine top 2 candidates. I initially put that on in my knowledge at the time. I thought it was a great idea. Since then, we've heard a number of presentations that say this is a real equity issue because the voting mix at a primary time in May is far different than the voting mix in the November election. And so my thinking on that is that we do not want to go to primaries anymore. And I would just lay that on the table as one that maybe we could remove.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Ardner. Discussion around removing Miro board item regarding the requirement, not the use, the requirement of primaries. Do you
Can
have
we
a-
actually remove both of them until we get all the information? Because those all tie back to our election
What was
work.
the second one you're referring to?
The one right next to it, change tie vote process. Because I think both of those, based on all the information that's been shared, will be addressed with whatever the recommendations come out from those.
So you're saying we should just keep them and maybe move them to a lower priority?
No, like put a red sticker on top of them.
Gotcha. Just keep them no change. Thank you very much, Member Gagan. Vice Chair Arner, you still had your hand raised?
I wasn't sure I understood or I didn't follow the last comment.
So if I understood you correctly, Vice Chair Ardner, you were saying you were advocating for the removal of that item, require use of primaries. Member Gakin, if I understood Member Gakin correctly, was saying we should keep it until we get more information back from other
No.
sources regarding demographics or the professors.
No, I say we should remove them, both of them.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, because you said put a little heart on it. My mistake.
No,
Oh,
put a
I
red
misheard-
sticky on it. You got the
Oh.
red, yeah.
Oh, the square. Oh, I
Mhm.
see. Okay, gotcha. My mistake. My mistake. All right. Anyone against? I'm just gonna blanket the term here. Xing out require use of primaries. Anyone against Xing that out? All right. Seeing none. Oh, also anyone against Xing out change tie vote process? I guess I was technically against it earlier, but
Quick question.
yes. Member Dennison.
Does Xing it out mean we're just deciding to leave it as is? We're not gonna visit it, we're not gonna address it? Because I agree with Chair Daya that the way section 27 reads right now, where it's pick a name out of a hat, is very archaic. And I would object to removing that as a priority.
I would second that. Not that's not a motion. No one get confused. Member Hollis.
I wonder if maybe the easy solution is just to drop its priority very low with the assumption that it may become irrelevant based on any kind of election reform that we do.
That was my point. Thank you, Member Hall.
Oh, okay. So Member
Yes.
Gakin, you meant lower the priority or meant cover it up? Now I'm
Cover
just-
them up because I think with what's going to be brought to our committee around voting, it may become null and void
Okay, I see. I
with
got you.
our
I think
proposals.
And
Member Hollis, you were saying don't cover tie vote, just lower the priority.
yeah, and what I was hearing, Member Gakin from Member Dennison and Daya is if we don't change things, if we don't do an election reform, we would need to address this tie process. So instead of delete it entirely, move its priority super low with the assumption that we're not going to have a tie process option anymore. But if somehow we do need to still address the tie process.
I can completely support that.
I concur as well. Member Dennison.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that. Quick procedural question. If we do recommend to council an alternative election system that, makes the tie vote thing obsolete, and if that new election system ends up not being enacted by voters, do we have the option to go back and say, okay, then we need to change, we need to do something about this tie vote process? Or I don't know, is there some way to kind of remedy that? That in the case that a new election system does not get voted in by voters, that there is this kind of trigger something that will change the tie vote process, that section 27.
That's a really, really good question, Member Dennison. I think that would be like, personally, like something that we would make clear, like when we forwarded stuff to council, but in terms of like discussion today, I think I'm fine with lowering the priority, and then thumbs up if you're fine with that as well. Cool. Vice Chair Ardner.
Yes, I lower the priority. I think it's not a high priority question in my book at all, because I'm not aware that it's ever been used. It's required, you need it for the odd example that it might occur, but drawing names out of the hat might be archaic, but it's been used before. So I don't have any problem with just leaving the language as it is, and frankly removing this one entirely, because it's a 1 in 50 year kind of issue.
That could be an important 50th year, though. Member Stroud.
Yeah, does our meeting go till 8 or 9? I was thinking it was 9. And if that's the case, I would love to take a 3-minute bio break.
Let's see, agenda items. There's 2 left. Future meeting and future schedule and other items. We're a little rusty, so technically we were kind of, it was going for like till 9, then we were getting better ending at 8. So, I mean, we're all here voluntarily. I can't just like, boom, adjourn the meeting, I guess, at 8 o'clock. But my preference would be not 9. But again, I'm just one person.
No, I second if 8 o'clock can be the goal and manage our comfort, because I do, it's like you, have to work tomorrow.
Yeah. So just hang in there if that's okay, Member Stroud. Vice Chair Arner, anything to add? Okay. So there was kind of, how do I want to phrase this? Conflicting opinions about change the tie vote process. All in favor of lowering that priority versus removing it. Let's just get a hands up, thumbs up, something like that. So lowering the priority of that item and not removing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think Member Gakin, I don't want to speak for you, but I know earlier with Member Hollis, you were like, that sounds good. Member Hollis? Oh, Member Gakin, go ahead. Oh, you're doing hands up. Got it. Perfect.
Yeah, I gave a thumbs up, but apparently it didn't translate.
I think Vice Chair Arner, you're the only one, if I understood correctly, everyone's intentions about removing it. So we're just going to lower the priorities. Does that sound right to everybody?
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine either way, but I would have voted for removing it just because I don't think it's super important.
Well, you've been overruled.
I'm fine with that too.
Hey, I've been overruled before. It feels weird, but City Attorney.
Chair, not to overrule anyone, but if we have members that are needing to take a short break, I recommend that you give that break. You can certainly just make it 5 to 10 minutes, but if people need to stop and take care of business, then that's perfectly something that's something we should do when it's requested.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. I think that's nature calling. So everyone, take a 5-minute break and we'll reconvene at 7:50.
Even 2 or 3 minutes is good too. Thanks.
Well, you get 5. You get 2 extra. Okay, be thankful. That's sarcasm for anyone watching this in the future.
Hey, Chair,
Yes.
on the post-it on the right page in the middle, you do have a little right above. You blocked out the charter number there.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
did you?
that was intentional because this was less of a chapter 8
Okay.
specific
All right.
thing and more
right.
of a general addition.
Got it. That's why
But
you put the arrow
you're
down.
right.
It
I
isn't
did
going
that
to term.
yeah,
I
did that
okay.
quietly
It's
without
not
saying anything. Sorry.
okay. It has nothing to do with term limits. It's just below that down that area. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad we had that break. I discovered why there was screaming downstairs. My child is having an explosive bloody nose.
Oh,
Thank you.
I don't know if I can see the general chat in, let's see, everyone? Nope. Can't see it when I got the thing on. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's nothing was put in there. Okay, let's see. We're still missing member Hollis and member Ardner at a minimum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. Quorum achieved. Member Dressel and member Gaken, have you guys returned?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Welcome back, everybody. So, as there was a very informal, like, hey, let's, not go too long. Kind of think about anything else we want to, oops, nope, don't zoom in. Any adjustments, that's probably a better word, for the Miro board. I will go briefly. City Attorney, oh, sorry, Member Hollis.
I just want to point out that I think Vice Chair Ardner had some discussion around what was it? It was the city manager being dismissed and city manager
It's a department being dissolved and city
okay.
manager being dismissed. Yeah. So in terms of, there was the I said I'm happy to remove these because they were my additions, and then yourself and Vice Chair Ardner said let's not remove them. So that's currently where they sit. So they're not being removed from the Miro board presently.
To be clear, it's not that I didn't want them removed. It's that I just felt those two were probably should go together, whichever way it went.
Gotcha.
And I'm interested to hear why they wouldn't want to be removed.
Vice Chair Ardner, did you want to elaborate on, or and possibly I misunderstood you, but Member Hollis is asking about the, where, I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, should council be able to remove city manager? I believe was one of them, right, Member or Vice Chair Ardner? That was the first one.
That was not a concern of mine, and I'm not crazy about that one.
Oh, and then this one, require council consent before manager can disband or reorganize.
That's correct. I think that should be discussed.
Okay, so Member Hollis, you were saying this one should be looped into that one. You were saying, should council be able to remove city manager? That should be lumped together with council consent before manager can disband or reorganize departments.
So I guess to speak to it, in my mind, there's a link there in that I think if council only has the ability to remove city manager, that's fine with city manager being able to do what they want to do. The idea being, city council can remove them. If city council can no longer remove the city manager, I would be more concerned about the city manager being able to just dismiss or disband without talking to the city council first.
Okay, so I think if I understood you, well, I misunderstood you already, but you're not saying this one should be removed. You're not saying that.
I think leaving it as it is fine.
Okay,
I
so
thi-
then this
I think if
question
we-
is fine to remove is what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
you're
both
fine
of
with
them.
both remove. Okay, so let's just
If we
focus on
change
this one.
one, then the other one may need to be changed as well.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, Vice Chair Ardner.
Regarding the one that you're pointing at right now, the yellow one.
This one.
The
Okay.
concern that I have is that the manager, as long as they hold the position, has very little accountability to council. And I thought that that was probably an excessive grant of freedom. We're not asking, I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't have the ability to organize any way they feel like it. It seems to me, though, that any manager worth their salt should be able to make a case as to why this new proposal is better than the old one. And I don't think that's an unreasonable infringement on the authorities and powers of the manager to operate the city.
Thank you much, Vice Chair Ardner. Member Keithley.
I advocate to remove both of them from the board. In regards to the city manager being, should be removed, it's basically that the council appoints and directs that work. If not the council, then whom? There is no other authority above the city manager other than the council. And it's just like on the school board right now. We have one job. We set policy, but then we direct the superintendent. That is how it works. And I guess I'm concerned about putting any, I mean, as Vice Chair Ardner said, a city manager worth its salt will, they certainly won't do it under the cloak of night because the citizens know, the council knows, so they're going to make the argument for it. But without them being able to do that, it's going to hamper their ability to be as cost effective potentially when HR needs to be put into the city attorney's office or the IT department needs to, you know, be disbanded. I mean, there's just a myriad of reasons why they might need to do that from a financial standpoint. And I do believe the process is such that it's going to be, have enough checks and balances, but I recommend removing both.
Thank you, Member Keithley. Member Hollis.
So I think I agree with what Member Keithley was saying. I think that as long as you have the ultimate check and balance of the city council can disband the city manager, then we don't need additional checks on the city manager to check in with the city council, because ultimately, if the city manager is doing what the city council doesn't approve of, they will replace the city manager. And I think that would be building more bureaucracy than we need to force the city manager to do a very specific act every time they want to change something.
Thank you, Member Hollis. So as the author of these two, I'll elaborate on why I wanted to pose this question, which was, should council be able to remove city manager, which as it stands now in the charter, city council, just we're on the same page, city council can remove the city manager. And Member Keithley brings up a good point. Like if that is not the case, then like who removes the city manager? The reason I brought it up is probably like a fringe scenario in which I didn't want to see someone like running for city council on like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like hyper focusing on like the city manager. Like if you elect me, I'll remove this person. Like that's a really like fringe case, which is why I put the question here per se, but you guys bring up good points. And I was also in favor of removing it too, because it's a low probability that occurs. So should council be able to remove city manager? Is anyone wanting to, if it's okay to ask this question, without someone can cut me off, or, you know, raise your hand, I should say, don't cut me off. I hate being interrupted. Is anyone wanting to keep this item? Okay, so should council remove city manager? I will put a box over. It's one of these, this one. Regarding require council consent before manager can disband or reorganize departments. Vice Chair Ardner, you wanted to keep this question, or if I understood correctly?
I would make one comment to that to try to explain it. You have issues with, first of all, the council has total authority to get rid of the city manager at any time. That's not a question in my mind. The question is if the city manager is doing things on their own under the authority of the charter, but which are not really great with the city council. The only thing the council can do is use the quote nuclear option to take that person out and replace them. And we've already been through that, and we've seen how traumatic and difficult and time consuming it is. And basically the city's on hold for 6 months or a year while that process plays itself out. So I was looking for a modest adjustment where the council could express some concern. Here's an example, and you've seen it if you listen to some of the council meetings. The city manager, the new city manager, has appointed a number of assistant city managers. And recent council meeting, there was some grumbling from the councilors as to whether that was a good idea or not. We have assistant here and assistant there and everywhere, it seems. So there's an example where if the manager had simply come to the council and said, here's my vision, here's the reasons why, the council could give it an up or down vote, and it would relieve any pressure that can build up over time for actually the removal of the city manager. And so I was looking for kind of a safety valve that would depressurize the situation if somebody is going a little off kilter.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Arner, for clarifying. City Attorney.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just for clarification, there are also council rules, and those provide for performance reviews for the council's two officers. That's the city attorney and the city manager.
And those are annual, probably?
Per the council rules, I can't remember exactly when they happen. I believe they're annual. There are also opportunities for check-in on a quarterly basis, but the council advisory subcommittee kind of runs that when they give performance reviews.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. Member Keithley.
I was just going to clarify that as well. I mean, having served on the city council, we did do performance evaluation. So it's not just a nuclear option, either go with everything they say or terminate them. The performance evaluations, the city council directs the policy and the city manager can dictate how might they do that, but the council always has input. So I'm concerned about having this be in the city charter that would limit their ability to, punt and change as they need to, because the council's always going to be ultimately responsible for their work.
Thank you, Member.
Concur with that, and I would vote to delete that item.
Okay. Member Hollis, did what you wanted to say get covered? Okay. Any objections to removing Miro board item require council consent before manager can disband or reorganize departments? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to press the buttons. Here, this one. Here we go. All right. It is 8 p.m. Do we want to continue? And, we still have a couple agenda items. Who is in favor of continuing, I guess? 1. It's been a while, so I could keep going.
I will say that I feel like we've got all the low hanging fruit here. I'd be fine for like, another 15 minutes of us doing the other agenda items. I don't know if we have any more we need to work on this specific agenda item.
Thank you, Member Hollis. Member Gakin.
Yeah, I can give about 15 more minutes and then I do have to call it quits.
Okay. Okay, I won't bring up the city attorney term limit then. Let's just so moving beyond, and any objection to moving beyond the discussion, that's not mine, for the collaboration board. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Those got merged. So that's one less, 14. We got rid of 14. I think, if I counted right. All right. Next agenda item. Agenda items for future meeting, future schedule. So would the committee like to continue scheduling the meetings month by month, or does the committee want to consider choosing a standing day and time of each month, as well as future agenda item discussion?
Hey, Chair, would you mind stopping the screen share so that all the people can be large on my screen again?
Yes.
Thanks.
This button.
Chair Andaya,
Yes. Oh, sorry. I was fixing my thing. City Attorney.
that's perfectly okay. Just for your knowledge, under Resolution 3478, the city attorney sets the dates and times officially for Charter Review Committee meetings. There's a reason for that. It's coordinating with 10 people on the committees, 6 people on the subcommittee, making sure we have appropriate staff that can be at a certain time and date. However, as I've stated before, obviously I work in good faith with both of these bodies to try and meet the demands or requests that you do have. So just keep that in mind. I certainly, if the Charter Review Committee wants to meet more than once a month, maybe once every 3 weeks or so at a certain time, maybe limit the time of the meetings to an hour and a half or 2 hours, we can certainly do all that. Sure, I can work with you on that. But I did want you to make to be aware of that particular section of the resolution.
Thank you very much, City Attorney. So as we've handled it previously, we decide like we want to meet next month or in 3 weeks, as City Attorney said. Does anyone advocating for changing that frequency? Also, Member Keithley, pardon me, to fill you in, was the City Attorney did give an update on that. The City Council was, my own words, very open to extending the duration of the Charter Review Committee. Now, and while we're discussing future agenda items, the duration that we think we may need is going to be a discussion I'm advocating for in a future agenda item, because the City Council says, we'll extend it, but how long do you want? So that's a conversation for all of us to have. So going back to my original question, frequency of the meetings, are we still fine with once a month? And the subcommittee meets, I mean, you guys set your own schedule actually, so I won't even touch on that. All right, once a month it sounds like, and then that will be coordinated through the city attorney's office with city staff, I believe, or City Attorney, just give me a thumbs up. I think that's the right process for that.
Yeah, Chair, that's correct. And really, I work with the chair of each advisory body to set the dates and times of these meetings. And then we have our staff, be it Margarita or Miss Leo, who will send out the doodle polls or something similar so we can get everybody on board and set up a meeting.
Thank you very much. So the last thing in this agenda item is future agenda items. On the next agenda, probably discussing what extension we think we want to request. Any objections to that? Or I guess it doesn't have to be that specific, but like any other things people want to discuss on the next agenda.
Yeah, I'd like to have space for the facilitator to give a presentation on the report of their findings. I feel like after the subcommittee has some time to think about it, as well as this whole body, then we'll be able to talk about timelines with a little bit more accuracy, potentially.
That sounds good. Member Fear.
Should we finish the priority board? Since we
At
kind
a
of,
future agenda, you mean? Yep.
yeah, like the next
yeah,
time
yeah,
we
yeah.
get together. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
put
like,
that
we're
on
not
the
going
agenda.
back. That sounds good.
We unofficially tabled it, so let's officially finish it.
Yep, that sounds good to me. Any other agenda items people have in mind? Oh, Member Stroud?
We had made a motion at a previous meeting to invite Albina Vision to give us some background about urban renewal.
That sounds familiar.
I'm curious if not next month, maybe the month after, if we could get that on one of our agendas.
Sounds good to me. Member Keithley.
The minutes actually had Rockwood CDC and the city's urban renewal program. And then I think Member Stroud added Albina's, but I wouldn't want to hear from them and not hear from the other two.
That's right, Rockwood CDC. I'm so glad you're on top of it. Yeah, it would be lovely to get all of them.
Anything else? So just we're on the same page. There's continued mirror board discussion. The Rockwood CDC has Albina Vision. Oh, the time extension we want. I feel like there was a fourth one. Or was it just those three?
Making space
report. A
for the
report. That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, with the facilitator. Yep. Okay. Any objection moving to the next agenda item?
I
Oh,
would
Vice Chair.
table the discussion on timeline until we know exactly how many priority items we want to do, and then get a handle on what timeline is it going to take to do each one, and then we can have the answer for the attorney, which he asked for in November. So I would push that off for at least a month or 2 months.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Ardner. I would if it's okay, my opinion, I think sometimes the conversations around things take multiple meetings, which is multiple months. So in my head, talking about that doesn't mean making a decision about that. And if it's all right with you, we could have it as the last agenda item with the Hollis Classic as time permits. Is that acceptable? All right. So moving on to the other agenda item. Does any member have anything else for the committee? All right. So once again, thank you to all of you for your time, subcommittee especially, city staff especially. It was good to see you all again. And without objection, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.